Welcome. Today, we're plunging into a case that, well, it stunned the world. A story of just profound and sickening contradiction.
It really is.
If you only saw the public-facing image, the large family, 15 people posing in matching outfits for trips to Disneyland, Las Vegas.
Right.
You saw this picture of American normalcy, a devoted stay-at-home mom, Louise Turpin, and a successful computer engineer, David Turpin, guiding their flock.
The perfect image.
But our sources reveal that behind that, that meticulously constructed facade lay a nightmare. Authorities could only describe it as a house of horrors.
And that extreme dissonance, the cheerful, smiling photos versus the reality of, systematic torture and starvation inside, that's really the core mechanism here. It allowed the abuse to exist, almost hidden in plain sight for decades.
So that's our mission today, to unpack it all.
Yeah, it's challenging. We need to meticulously unpack the entire timeline, the unsettling background of the parents, their financial life, the decades of escalating cruelty that started long before California. Then the nail-biting 2-year escape plan by a 17-year-old girl. Just incredibly courageous.
I think, yeah.
And the court case, the outcome, and maybe most critically, the devastating and, frankly, ongoing aftermath for the 13 siblings.
Yeah.
Especially how the system's meant to protect them, well, failed them later on.
Let's start with the parents then, David and Louise Turpin. Because their profiles, they just don't fit that common stereotype of child abusers, the one often linked to, say, economic hardship.
No, not at all. David Allen Turpin, born 61, he was highly educated, highly paid, graduated from Virginia Tech.
Right.
Held positions as computer engineer for major defense contractors, Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman.
Big names.
Huge.
Yeah.
And sources say he was earning, a significant salary, sometimes upwards of $140,000 a year.
Wow. Okay, so that detail is critical, like you said. It sets the scene. This isn't about simple economic desperation.
Exactly. He had these highly technical, secure jobs, often involving sensitive defense contracts. That gave the family this huge air of credibility, stability, Neighbors knew him as quiet, kept his home pristine. A classic high-functioning presentation, really.
And Louise Ann Turpin, she was much younger when they married, right?
Yeah, born in 68, married David when she was just 16, he was 23.
Okay.
And she was primarily listed as a full-time housewife, publicly anyway, devoted to managing this huge family.
But even with that high salary David was earning, we see signs of something unstable underneath. Finances don't quite add up, do they?
Well, yeah, that's a key point. How does a guy earning $140K end up filing for bankruptcy?
Right.
It suggests either, massive instability or maybe huge unacknowledged spending habits, plus the cost of such a large family without any government help. Sources show they filed for bankruptcy in 2011, reported debts between $100,000 and $500,000. That's a huge range, but it's significant debt either way.
So the high salary was real, but maybe the financial management was chaotic?
Seems volatile, yeah. And this financial stress might have played into the increasing control mechanisms we see later? Maybe.
Okay, beyond the money, they built this powerful image, very traditional, religious.
Very much so. Identified as Pentecostal Christians. And they openly use that to rationalize the family size. 10 daughters, 3 sons, born between 88 and 2015.
13 kids.
13. Claiming God called on them to have so many.
And that religious justification, it served multiple purposes, didn't it?
Absolutely. It was a powerful shield. It explained the strict discipline, the homeschooling, the isolation, at least to outsiders.
So when the truth came out, friends and neighbors were genuinely shocked.
Totally shocked. Which just shows how effective that public performance was, especially those, Facebook photos and the matching outfits.
But you mentioned a detail earlier from the sources that kind of complicates this devout image.
Right. The claim by one relative that the couple also experimented with, quote, other lifestyles, including witchcraft and swinging.
Whoa, hold on. So you have the strict Christian front, and then rumors of witchcraft and swinging. That's quite a contradiction.
It's more than just a facade, isn't it? It suggests maybe some profound psychological fragmentation, or just a complete lack of any consistent internal rules.
How do the sources make sense of that?
Well, it suggests the control wasn't really about religious doctrine. It was about absolute personal power and secrecy.
Okay.
The Pentecostal image was the social cover. It gave them a story for their isolation. The alleged others stuffed witchcraft, swinging hints at a private life, maybe rejecting normal boundaries, looking for other kinds of control or gratification.
Maybe with each other.
Perhaps. Regardless, the result was this total split. Public self Devout, big, happy family. Private reality. Chaotic, abusive, starving.
And they needed a way to explain why 13 kids were never seen in school.
Exactly. And David's solution was chillingly calculated. He used the system against itself.
The Sandcastle Day School.
Right. He registered their home as a private K-12 school with the California Department of Education, listed himself as the principal.
That was the loophole then.
The perfect bureaucratic loophole. In California, private schools have way less oversight than public schools, or even standard homeschooling through a district.
So by filing that affidavit,
He claimed they ran a K-12 school, met the education requirements on paper, but with zero external checks on the kids' well-being or, actual learning.
it made them legally invisible.
Pretty much. And later, the sources confirm, David faced extra charges for perjury because he kept signing those affidavits year after year saying the kids were being educated to state standards, which was obviously false.
It just shows how planned it all was. Keeping everyone out, social services, schools, everyone.
Absolutely calculated.
It's really vital, I think, for this deep dive to get that this abuse wasn't something that just sprang up in California.
No, not at all.
The sources make it clear, right? This was systematic, it was protracted, it started long before the Paris house. They lived in Texas for years.
Fort Worth, Rio Vista, until about 2010. And Texas is where that isolation really evolved into systemic neglect and deprivation. We have evidence from 2007. It shows this really disturbing, deliberate segregation within the family.
Segregation.
Yeah. The parents moved 10 of the older kids into an isolated trailer on their property in Rio Vista. They only kept the 2 youngest with them in the main house.
Wow. So they literally split the family unit.
Structurally, yes.
Yeah.
Made the older kids totally reliant on whatever the parents decided to give them, which wasn't much.
And that scarcity, the lack of food, that was intentional.
It certainly seems like it. Created this state of constant hunger. They'd bring groceries, but not enough, week after week. Left those 10 older kids starving.
The details that came out later are just haunting. Jordan Turpin, who escaped. She was only 6 back then.
Around that age, yeah. And she remembered that severe hunger, surviving on condiments. She told authorities she lived on ketchup or mustard or ice.
Ketchup or ice?
That tiny detail, it just paints such a stark picture. A child defining food as ketchup or ice. It tells you everything about their reality.
It wasn't just neglect. It sounds like managed starvation, a form of control.
Exactly. Keep them perpetually hungry. Their focus narrows down to just survival. No energy left for resistance or even complex thought.
And it wasn't just the older kids suffering, right? What happened when they left Texas in 2010?
Well, that's when neighbors found the trail of clues they left behind. Devastating stuff.
What kind of things?
Scenes of just extreme filth, feces, piles of garbage, disturbing things like dead cats, suggesting animal abuse, and just unsanitary conditions were normal.
Grim.
But the most foreboding thing, when authorities looked into the Texas properties later, they found beds with ropes and chains tied to them.
So the shackling, the thing that shocked everyone in 2018.
It had already started years earlier in Texas. Concrete evidence. It shows this slow, deliberate evolution of their control methods.
So the move to California, it wasn't a fresh start or a sudden breakdown.
No. It was more like an expansion. Perfecting an existing system of cruelty, moving to a new place where they could implement even stricter control, maybe with less chance of being noticed. They were basically upgrading their prison. #Tag3, the House of Horrors in Paris, California.
Okay, so they moved to Paris in 2014, and this is where things escalate even further.
That's exactly right. The isolation becomes total. The abuse becomes so systematic, so shocking. It kind of defied typical classifications. Experts who study family abuse called the Turpin case unprecedented.
Unprecedented, why?
Because of its complexity. This was calculated torture, inflicted by both parents, on multiple victims, including 7 who were legally adults up to age 29.
7 adults still living under those conditions.
And the systematic cruelty, especially the physical imprisonment. This wasn't random anger. It was a calibrated system designed to break them physically and psychologically.
Let's talk about the imprisonment, the shackling.
Yeah, that was their signature method. Children, adults, didn't matter. Routinely beaten, strangled, and restrained, shackled with heavy chains and padlocks.
To their beds.
Tethered to their beds, sometimes for weeks, even months at a time.
Months. And the reasons for this?
Often just laughably trivial. Sources confirm things like trying to wash their hands higher than their wrists. The parents called it playing with water.
Playing with water gets you chained to a bed for months.
Apparently. It's about absolute arbitrary control. The dehumanization is just horrific. They were basically forced to live in their own filth while chained.
How? How did that work? Bathroom breaks.
They were only unchained, usually one at a time, to brush their teeth or use the bathroom, which means most of the time they were forced to live right next to their own excrement, their own waste, right where they slept.
Oh, my God.
The deputies who first went in, they said the smell alone was overwhelming, sickening, human waste, decaying garbage.
That combination, the chains, the filth, it's psychological warfare, isn't it?
Absolutely. Classic tactic. Strips away dignity, humanity, makes you feel like less than human.
And the physical toll. The deprivation caused lasting damage. We need to talk about the malnutrition.
Yes. Severe deprivation for years. They got incredibly restricted diets, often just one meal a day.
What kind of meal?
Peanut butter, bologna, maybe a frozen burrito, or just chips. That was it.
Not enough to sustain anyone, let alone growing children or adults.
Not even close. And the numbers really tell the story of that starvation. When the police found them, remember, 7 were legally adults.
But the deputies thought they were all kids.
Exactly. They mistook all 13 for minors because their physical development was so severely stunted. Medical reports later. Just shocking. One 29-year-old victim weighed only 82 pounds.
82 pounds.
And a 12-year-old child had the arm circumference of a 4-month-old baby.
A 4-month-old. That level of malnutrition, it causes permanent problems. Right?
Oh, absolutely. Doctors documented long-term health issues, severe cognitive impairments, neuropathy that's nerve damage, causing weakness, numbness, pain.
From lack of nutrients.
Yeah, from severe long-term vitamin and nutrient deficiencies, and even heart damage. These are permanent injuries caused by deliberate parental policy.
And on top of that, no medical care.
Complete denial. They were only allowed to shower once a year.
Once a year.
Once a year. Hadn't seen a doctor in 5 years. And none of the 13 kids had ever seen a dentist. Ever.
The teeth.
Rotting. They suffered from chronic illnesses, totally untreated. It wasn't just cruelty. It was a total systematic denial of every single fundamental human need.
Beyond the physical abuse, the psychological torture sounds just as calculated, almost bizarrely sadistic.
Yeah, this is where you really dive into the psychopathology of control. The sources reveal that parents would deliberately leave temptations out.
Temptations? Like what?
Fresh apple pies, takeout food containers, untouched Christmas gifts. They'd place them where the kids could see them, smell them.
But they couldn't have them.
Strictly forbidden. Couldn't touch them, couldn't enjoy them. This wasn't about rules. It was about showing the parents had absolute control over everything. Pleasure, comfort, even basic biological desires.
It's a form of constant low-level mental cruelty.
Exactly. Designed to just break your will.
Yeah.
It's terrifying when you think about it. The control wasn't about imposing doctrine. It was about imposing absolute psychological dominance.
And what about that detail about the smoke alarms? That sounds incredibly chilling.
It is. It's a profound insight into how the house itself became a weapon. Affidavits mention the parents just let the smoke alarms beep endlessly. Low batteries,
It's just beeping all the time.
constantly. A psychiatrist later explained this kind of high-level auditory stress, persistent, irritating, inescapable sound. It's a recognized technique. Interrogators, torturers use it
Why?
to maintain chronic disorientation, emotional distress. It prevents victims from ever finding peace or mental clarity. The house itself was designed to be a state of siege.
Wow. And then there are these anecdotes of just singular, shocking cruelty, like punishments designed to terrorize.
Yes, the sources mentioned the oldest child, she was maybe around 9 at the time,
Yeah.
caught stealing food.
And the punishment.
Not just a beating, no, it was a ritual of terror. The mother reportedly took the child's pet cat outside
Yeah. Oh, no.
and forced the little girl to watch as it was mauled and killed by feral dogs.
Unspeakable.
Calculated psychological trauma designed to instill the ultimate fear, the knowledge that the parents could and would instantly and brutally destroy anything you cared about for the smallest mistake.
To maintain this level of abuse for so long
Yeah.
in a suburban house, they had to be practically invisible. How did 15 people just disappear?
Through manipulating time, basically, the family operated on a nocturnal schedule.
Slept all day.
Slept during the day, woke up at night, so they were rarely seen by neighbors during normal hours.
And when neighbors did see them,
They often noted how pale they looked, malnourished, joked they looked like vampires.
wow.
But most importantly, the kids lacked basic world knowledge because of this total isolation. Jordan, the 17-year-old who escaped,
Huh.
she didn't know what medication was, or what an apartment was, or even who the police were.
So you didn't know who the police were?
No. Decades of isolation had just erased any connection to normal society, made the very idea of escaping, of reaching out for help, almost impossible to even conceive of. Hashtag Sorvey, the escape and rescue, the climax.
Okay, but despite that absolute control, that total isolation, the kids were secretly planning an escape for over 2 years.
Incredible, isn't it? An extraordinary act of resistance in itself.
What finally pushed the plan from, a secret dream into action?
The sources point to a specific imminent threat. They overheard their parents talking about moving.
Moving where?
To Oklahoma.
Oh.
And during this discussion, the mother, Louise, apparently got extremely agitated, started screaming threats about permanently chaining him up.
Permanently chaining them.
Yeah. For Jordan, the 17-year-old who was sort of the ringleader, the move was catastrophic. She'd spent 2 years watching the neighborhood, planning an escape route, trying to coordinate with her siblings.
Right.
A move to a new place, an unfamiliar prison, it would obliterate her plan. And those threats of permanent chaining, she realized time had just run out.
It was now or never. What was the specific threat she heard that galvanized her?
Jordan later recounted her mother yelling, "When we move to Oklahoma, I'm going to chain all your..."
Using a swear word and threatening they could just sit in their own waste indefinitely.
Horrifying.
Jordan said in interviews she genuinely believed we were going to die if they moved. That urgency led to the night of January 14th, 2018.
So tell us about the breakout itself.
Jordan, who was 17, and her 13-year-old sister, they managed to crawl out a window. They were out.
Both of them?
Initially. But the younger sister, she got immediately frightened, overwhelmed by the outside world, the sounds, the darkness, the fear of their parents finding out. She turned back and went home.
Oh, wow. So Jordan was alone.
Left completely alone. Carrying a deactivated cell phone she'd managed to steal from the house, hoping, really against the odds, that it could still somehow connect to 911.
And that detail about her walking on the road because she didn't know about sidewalks, it just paints such a picture of total isolation. Exactly.
Yeah.
Stepping into a world she literally didn't understand. Walking on the asphalt, terrified, but focused.
And she managed to call 911 on the deactivated phone.
She did. Deactivated phones can often still call emergency numbers. That 911 call, it's a recording of just pure tension and desperation. You hear this young voice struggling to explain an impossible reality.
What did she say?
She reported her parents were abusive, that her 2 little sisters were chained up right then, that the house was so dirty she sometimes can't breathe. Her vocabulary was incredibly limited. She had trouble with basic words like medication or even describing food properly.
So how did the dispatcher and the first officer who arrived know this wasn't just a prank call or someone deeply confused?
The photograph. That was the key.
She had a photo.
Jordan had secretly taken pictures inside the house, specifically of her younger sisters chained to their beds.
Wow, quick thinking.
Incredibly brave and resourceful. When the first officer arrived, she showed him these graphic, undeniable images on the phone.
And that changed everything.
Instantly. It moved it from a welfare check to an emergency intervention. Riverside County deputies were dispatched immediately.
So what happened when the deputies got to the house?
Louise and David Turpin answered the door. Louise apparently seemed perplexed, confused about why the police were there, maintaining that facade of normalcy right up to the very end.
But once the deputies went inside,
the facade shattered. They were immediately hit by that smell. Overwhelming, sickening stench of human excrement, mold, decaying garbage. The house was just covered in trash and filth.
And the children?
They found 3 children chained to their beds, just as Jordan had said. The rest of the 13 victims, aged 2 to 29, were scattered in these small, foul-smelling rooms.
And their physical condition confirmed Jordan's story.
Completely. The deputies were shocked. 7 were adults but looked like children because they were so malnourished, so physically stunted. They initially mistook all 13 for minors.
That physical evidence, the filth, it was undeniable.
Undeniable. And then, adding another layer of tragedy but also crucial evidence, they found hundreds of journals written by the children.
Journals.
Hundreds of them, detailing their lives, their suffering, a meticulous hidden record of years of abuse, which provided prosecutors with just extensive, powerful evidence. #V, legal proceedings and sentencing.
So after that discovery, David and Louise were arrested immediately, and the charges were extensive, right?
Devastatingly so. 14 felony counts each, including torture, false imprisonment, child abuse, cruelty to an adult dependent. reflecting the calculated, prolonged nature of it all.
And David had the extra perjury charge for the school thing?
Correct, for lying on those school affidavits year after year. Their bail was set incredibly high, $9 million for Louise, $12 million for David, reflecting the severity, the public outrage.
Did they fight the charges, go to trial?
No, they remained in custody and facing just overwhelming evidence, the rescue, the photos, the journals, the medical reports, they both pleaded guilty. In February 2019.
To all 14 counts.
To all 14 felony counts, which allowed them to avoid a very public, very painful trial for the children.
And the sentence.
Life imprisonment with the possibility of parole, but only after 25 years.
25 years. The sentencing hearing itself must have been incredibly emotional. This was the first time the public really heard from the victims, wasn't it?
Yes, it was extraordinary. And their statements revealed this really deeply complex, sometimes contradictory emotional landscape, which is, understandable given the trauma.
What kinds of things did they say?
Well, one daughter, visibly shaking clutched tissues, but spoke so powerfully about reclaiming her life. She said, "My parents took my whole life from me, but now I'm taking my life back. I'm a fighter, I'm strong, and I'm shooting through life like a rocket."
Wow. Incredible strength.
And she pointed out her progress college, Independence. And she added this really insightful line, "I saw my dad change my mom. They almost changed me." Showing she recognized the abuse was designed to destroy her very identity.
But not all the statements were like that. Some expressed forgiveness.
Yes, and that's part of the complexity. One of the sons, who's now pursuing a software engineering degree, learning basic things like riding a bike, he expressed forgiveness.
What did he say?
He said, "I love my parents and have forgiven them for a lot of the things that they did to us. Sometimes I still have nightmares. But that is the past, and this is now." It suggests some are processing through acceptance, maybe seeing forgiveness as necessary for their own peace.
And then there was even a statement asking for a lighter sentence. That must be hard for people outside the situation to grasp.
It is difficult, but we have to acknowledge it. A statement read for another daughter expressed love for her parents and actually said they believed their parents' actions, even the chaining, the food restriction, were done to protect us.
Protect them? From what?
From things like sugar and caffeine, apparently. It's just incredibly revealing. It suggests the psychological manipulation was so profound, some victims actually internalized the abuser's narrative, that the abuse was somehow out of love or protection.
How did the parents react during all this? Did they seem remorseful?
Both David and Louise cried during the hearing, but their apologies seemed, well, very guarded.
How so?
David's lawyer read his statement. It said, "My homeschooling and discipline had good intentions. I'm sorry if I've done anything to cause them harm."
That's not really taking responsibility.
Exactly. It attempts to mitigate by claiming good intentions, however misguided. Louise spoke for herself, apologized for hurting her children, said she loved them, even hoped she could hug them again someday.
Regardless of sincerity, the judge imposed the sentence, life, parole possible after 25 years.
And crucially, a permanent protective order. No contact whatsoever. No calls, no letters with any of the 13 children.
Given the severity, is parole likely after 25 years?
Legal experts think it's highly unlikely they'll ever meet the criteria. But yeah, the sentencing closed the legal book on the perpetrators, unfortunately for the victims. The next chapter brought a whole new set of struggles, dealing with the systems that were supposed to help them.
So immediately after the rescue, the focus was survival, physical healing.
Right. The 13 siblings spent 2 months in the hospital. Intensive treatment for all those long-term issues, cognitive problems, the neuropathy, heart damage from starvation.
But after that initial physical recovery, we start to see this incredible resilience, don't we?
Truly remarkable. Their ability to adapt, to build lives, it's inspiring. Many pursued education, sought independence.
Any specific examples?
Yeah, several successes. One sister, Jennifer Turpin, published a book in 2024 called Where Was God? About her experiences. And she got married that same year.
That's wonderful.
And Jordan, the one who escaped. She successfully moved into her own apartment in Southern California. She hopes to become a motivational speaker, using her trauma to make a difference.
Using her experience to help others.
Exactly. And she described this amazing moment of collective triumph with her siblings going to a Justin Bieber concert together. A symbol of reclaiming all those stolen years of normal childhood joy.
These successes are just a powerful testament to their spirit. But they happened despite a catastrophic failure by the system that was supposed to support them after the rescue.
And this is the crucial aha moment, isn't it?
Yeah.
The point where the story shifts. The rescue happened, But it was immediately followed by this profound institutional betrayal.
Betrayal by social services.
Yes. 4 years after the rescue, it came out that many of the children were failed by the very system, Riverside County, its foster agencies that took custody of them.
How? What happened?
Well, the public was incredibly moved by their story, donated hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Right, I remember that.
But most of that money got locked away in this complex, court-controlled trust fund, managed by a public guardian.
Locked away, they couldn't access it.
It became nearly impossible for them, especially the dependent adults, to access funds for just basic everyday needs, not emergencies, just life.
Can you give an example?
Yeah, the sources highlight a really painful one. Joshua Turpin wanted to buy a bicycle. He really wanted to learn to ride. He had money donated specifically for him in that trust.
And they wouldn't let him buy a bike.
He was denied. The request was turned down. It shows a system focused maybe more on preserving assets than on actually helping the victims heal and experience normal developmental things.
That's heartbreaking, denying him a bike.
And Jordan Turpin shared later, when she was finally released from foster care, they just let her go, no warning, no transition plan. She lacks basic life skills, had no housing support, didn't even know how to get health care.
It's like a second abandonment?
Pretty much. And then, horrifyingly, for the younger kids placed in foster care, the neglect turned into actual abuse. A second round of abuse.
Abuse in foster care.
Yes. This is maybe the darkest part of the aftermath. The younger Turpin minors were placed with a foster family, Marcelino and Rosa Olguin, and their adult daughter, Lenny's. And within that home, they were subjected to further severe abuse. The allegations are just shocking. Physical violence, being hit with belts, hair pulling, psychological torture like being forced to eat their own vomit.
Oh my God. After everything they'd been through.
Exactly. Rescued from one prison built by their parents, only for the system to place them right into another one.
Were there other allegations?
Yes. The sources also mention allegations of sexual abuse, inappropriate touching, fondling. The failure of the county and the foster agencies to monitor this placement properly was catastrophic.
So the siblings took action.
They did. They filed lawsuits against Riverside County, against the foster care agencies, the placement workers involved. It just highlights that rescue is meaningless if the safety nets that follow are broken.
Was there any accountability for that foster family, the Olguins?
Thankfully, yes, some. They eventually pleaded guilty to multiple charges in late 2024.
What were the sentences?
Marcelino Olguin got 7 years in prison for lewd acts, child endangerment, false imprisonment. Rosa and her daughter Lenny's got 4 years of probation for cruelty and false imprisonment.
So some judicial closure there. But the system failed them twice.
An incredible indictment of the public safety apparatus, yeah.
Yeah.
Failed by their parents, then failed by the system meant to protect them.
So after all that, the decades of torture from their parents, the betrayal by the system, what's the thing that keeps the Turpin siblings going? What protects them now?
Their bond with each other. It seems unbreakable.
They're still close.
Very, very close. Jordan Turpin calls it a super big bond. Built on that shared trauma, yes, but also on mutual protection. They look out for each other. They provide the emotional stability, the basic life knowledge that the outside world and state agencies repeatedly failed to give them.
They're each other's advocates.
Absolutely. Their own support structure. Hashtag tag outro.
We've really unpacked a story of just extreme darkness today, spanning decades, calculated torture, financial issues, systemic deceit. But we've also moved past that initial horror, hopefully, into seeing the immense resilience of these 13 survivors. The true courage wasn't just in that moment of escape, incredible as that was. It's in their ongoing fight, building new, independent lives despite everything they faced, even after the rescue.
In the Turpin case, it really underscores that terrifying power of isolation and secrecy. But it also critically highlights a societal failure we have to confront. Rescue is only the beginning.
Right, it's not the end of the story.
Not at all. The continuing struggle for these children that later abuse in foster care, the barriers to getting their own donated funds, it raises a vital question for all of us. When we celebrate a rescue, are we really making sure the systems meant to protect victims are actually working?
Oh, are we just closing the book too soon? Walking away?
Exactly. Are we walking away from our responsibility? The resources, the support, psychological, practical, it has to match the depth of the trauma.
Sure.
And too often, it seems it doesn't.
That complexity of their emotional landscape, wanting forgiveness for parents who systematically abused them, then fighting a system that failed them, It's just astonishing. Can survival really turn into deep healing if the structures meant to support healing end up causing fresh trauma?
It's a huge challenge.
So maybe this is the thought we leave you with. How do we as a society move beyond just celebrating the rescue? How do we actively make sure these kinds of systemic breakdowns don't happen again? How do we guarantee that when a child is pulled out of darkness, they aren't just placed back into the shadows of bureaucracy and failure?